Welcome to Test Room, your go-to hub for professional knowledge sharing. In this tutorial, we will learn what are web services, basic concepts of web services with some practical examples. Web services, as the name indicates, these are the services that are available on a web or an online services. These services are hosted on servers. The server can be either on-premise or in the cloud. Some of the good examples for web services can be weather data, the flight information, geolocation services, currency conversion services, or the translation services to name a few. The web service allows other applications or a system to request and utilizes the service that it provides. The application or a system that utilize these services are called as clients. The client and server communicate and exchange the data over internet. Let us take an example where you try to translate a sentence from Dutch to English using Google Translate. In this case, the application, which is a client, utilizes the translation service provided by Google Cloud. If you try to use a translation feature while your phone's internet connection is turned off, you will receive an error message saying that it is unable to connect to the server. This clearly indicates that the internet acts as a communication link between the application and the translation service which is hosted on the Google Cloud. Now it is clear that internet acts as a communication link between the service provider, which is a server, and a service consumer, which is a client. API, an application programming interface which acts as a mediator defining a set of rules which is called as a protocol to communicate between a client and server so that the messages or the requests sent by the client are clearly understood by the server. And when the server processes the request and sends back the response back to the client, it will be sent in a format that will be clearly understood by the client. So, in short, the API or an application programming interface acts as an mediator that allows the client and server to communicate programmatically. When an application or a system called as a client needs some information or a functionality, it sends a request to the server, which processes it and sends back a message which is called as a response. Web services, that is the two entities here, the client and server, generally use HTTP or HTTPS protocol for the communication, and they often exchange the data in a format like JSON or XML. SOAP and REST are two commonly used web services types, with REST being the more commonly used for web applications. In the next session, we will deep dive into these two topics. Let us understand web service with an example. Imagine you are using a weather app on your phone. When you open the phone to check the weather, it does not calculate the weather data on its own. Instead, it requests the data from web service hosted on weather provider. The weather application basically sends a request to the weather provider's web service asking for the current weather information for a given location. When it sends the request, it sends the current location in terms of latitude and longitude. The weather provider's web service processes the request and sends back the relevant weather data such as temperature, humid, weather forecast for the 24 hours in an JSON or XML format. Then the weather application takes the received data from the web service and display it in a user friendly format on your screen. This is how basically the weather application works. Hope you understood the concept of web services. In a nutshell, web services are online services hosted on the server. The server where these services are hosted are called as service provider. Any application or a system that is in need of this data can request this service from the server. The systems which is in need of data are called as a clients or a service consumer. The client and the server communicates over an internet. API is also called as an application programming interface, sets a standard guidelines or a rules for the communication so that the message formats that is sent across the client and the server can easily be understood by the two parties. Web services generally use HTTP or HTTPS for the communication, and they often exchange the data in a format like JSON or XML. SOAP and REST are true primary web service types. That brings to the end of Introduction to Web Services session. Hope you enjoyed learning with me. In case you like this video, please support me by subscribing my channel. Thank you for watching.